The madness is in full swing, and we need to answer an important question about Virginia. So please drop a comment as we start to break down what we just witnessed on this very first day of March Madness. I need you guys to tell me, do you think Virginia basketball is still an elite program? Jason and I are both going to give our thoughts, but let's get some debate going below. We'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this. Another thing we will be addressing, North Carolina declined an invite to the NIT. I'm going to explain why I think this is a representation of the larger issue I see in college basketball, and Carolina and Hubert Davis are not alone in dealing with it. And lastly, of course, we will take a few minutes just to say I fucking told you so with our boys from New Jersey, huh? FDU. Shout out Ansley Almanor, a proud alum of Cole World Training, mind you, leading his squad to a big dub, 23-8. Huge win for Fairleigh Dickinson. And with that, I say hello to my partner, my co-host, my good friend, and a man who simply cannot guard me, Jason Cole. How are you?
Let's go. I guess I can't guard you and nobody else can either. Furman, what's popping? Let's go. We're not going to forget about that. And if you didn't watch the last episode, I'm going to just sit here and say I told you so. You should have been tuned in. Be a friend of a friend and subscribe now, man.
Yeah, we do it for the people. We do it for the people. Furman does it for the people. We gave y'all that pick. If you tuned in, we told you to take Furman. We told you why they were going to win. We told you why this Virginia team was not built for this. And I hope you guys cashed. That's all I'm going to say.
Along with the FDU with Ansley being on the pod right the night before, telling you what he was going to do, a double-double and a dub. I mean, he was 2 rebounds short of a
Too shy.
23 points, 8 rebounds. Shout out Ansley, man. Big W. Advance in the March Madness, man.
Unbelievable win for our boys from Jersey. If you guys missed it, go check out our interview with Ansley. Absolutely phenomenal young man, class act, and a product of that shirt you see on my friend Jason, Cole World Training. I remember 2 years ago, this man could not walk and chew gum at the same time, and he just led his team to an NCAA tournament victory. A huge credit to his work ethic, his character, and obviously all the effort you put in training with him. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, I almost had tears in my eyes, like seeing him on TV and seeing his face and how proud I was of that kid.
Big W, big W.
Big dub.
Proud.
All right, so let's get into this because we witnessed an unfortunate ending for Virginia, and I know I picked Furman. I told you guys why it was going to happen. I told you guys why I thought Furman was going to win that game and why I thought this particular Virginia team wasn't built for it. I said it before, and I'll say it again. You have to have tough shot makers if you want to succeed with the style Virginia plays at. Now, today, that was less of an issue than I expected it to be. But for a program that we in the media say is synonymous with being disciplined, well-coached, hard-nosed, tough, smart, that was one of the most boneheaded finishes I've seen to a Virginia basketball game in a long time. And again, there were many an opportunity for Virginia to put the nail in the coffin. So I'm not blaming this on Kihei Clark. But Kihei Clark, a smart player, in that moment, did everything you are taught not to do. You are taught to not dribble the ball into the corner, not pick up your dribble.
Not catch the ball right there.
Don't catch the ball right there. Use your timeout. And then the last thing you want to do is Kareem skyhook the ball into the middle of the court and just hope it lands in a Virginia hand. And so I felt for Kihei Clark in that moment. Because listen, I've been critical of him. I've joked about him, but he had a hell of a career for Virginia. So I don't want the conversation to be negative about Kihei Clark. But to me, Virginia is still an elite basketball program. But man, they're giving us a lot of reason to remove them from that conversation. Let me say this, and then I want to hear your thoughts. Virginia in its last 4 NCAA tournaments, 2018, lost to a 16 seed, UMBC. 2019, national champions. 2020 obviously didn't happen. 2021, lost to a 13 seed, Ohio. And 2023, lost to 13 seed, Furman. So to me, it's a fair question to ask. Is Virginia still an elite basketball program?
Yes. Reason why is because he has a chip. Think about it. If you knew that you'll play 6 seasons and get 1 chip out of those 6 seasons, would you do it?
Yeah.
Of course. So with that being said, it don't always work out in March Madness. You know why? Because it's the best of the best from every area, right? And you see a team that you've never seen or never had to scout or never thought about playing. So I don't know, because it's all about matchups, not the numbers that they rank them at. You understand?
Yeah.
So you get matched up with a specific team, like you said, Furman, and you gave the reasons why, and those guys stepped up. And them not having a guy to create their own shot off the bounce, really, Beekman can do it, but he's a defender. He was ACC Defensive Player of the Year, so at that rate, it didn't just come down to him making that turnover, although that was the game. I mean, it was like a play. It looked like a play. He threw it up. They caught it. He passed it to his guard right there on the wing. He was wide open. Bang.
Yeah. I'll say this, though, because to your point, Reese Beekman is not the reason they lost that game. Reese Beekman is the reason they were in that game.
For sure.
I thought. He's a tough defender, but he's not a natural scorer. He's gotten better at it, but he's not a natural scorer. And this is what is missing from the Tony Bennett style. He cannot recruit a bucket getter. And the fact of the matter is, bucket getters do not want to play at Virginia. It's too much defense. It's too much discipline. It's too much of that style that no one wants to be part of.
So slow. Yeah, they want to get buckets.
And so that's where Tony Bennett's style is his biggest strength and his biggest weakness, because it works over the course of a 32-game regular season. God, you don't want to have to see that. Like, you don't want to deal with that. But for one game in March, Tony Bennett's style goes out the window.
Just one game, right? It's who's better on that night.
Yeah, so I'll finish it by saying this, but I do think Virginia is still an elite basketball program, but man, they are giving us a lot of reason to not think that as of late.
And losing in the first round isn't going to help your recruitment. So
no, it's not. Okay, let's shift gears, because something happened that I need to address. And I addressed it before. You guys saw my thoughts on it on Instagram already and TikTok. Make sure you're following us there if you're not already.
Friends of friends.
Carolina, needless to say, did not have the best season. It wasn't a great year for Carolina. I think everyone in the nation expected a much better showing from Carolina, and it didn't happen. But what ensued was them rejecting an invitation to the NIT. Now, let's take this back further, okay? Because my theory on Carolina starts last season when they went on the road and beat Duke in Coach K's final game. Let's go back to that game where Carolina went and beat Duke in Coach K's final game. Mm-hmm. In that game, the two best possible scenarios happened to each team. That win gave Carolina belief, and that loss gave Duke perspective. And what do I mean by that? Carolina was very mid up until that point. Very average, nothing spectacular, underachieving in my opinion. Yes, good enough for the tournament, but still underachieving. And that win gave them hope. It gave them confidence. It gave them belief that they carried with them all the way through this season. Now, Duke that loss humbled them, and it gave them perspective. The difference between the two is that this season, Duke was able to turn the page and start over, right? Carolina kept that false sense of belief and carried it over into this season, all the way up until where we are right now. And this is what I'm set off the top, to me, is representative of the larger issue in college basketball that I worry about so much, that frankly has turned some people away from the game and I've heard coaches say this, is are we properly teaching these young men how to fail? Because Carolina last year experienced the highest, nearly the highest of the highs. You had the 2 biggest wins in the history of the rivalry against Duke. You went to the Final Four as a major underdog and fell just short in the national championship game. They experienced, dare I say, the closest thing to the highest of highs in college basketball. Now, this year, they experienced the lowest of the lows. Because let's be very honest, Carolina going to the NIT is a failure. You can kid yourself, you can act like it's not. Carolina not going to the tournament and going to the NIT is a failure. But instead, they opted to not face that failure. And that's the issue and the concern I have with college basketball today is, are these 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old men and women, if we're talking them too, are they learning how to properly fail? Because ask any successful person in life in anything that they're successful at, they learn a lot more from failing than they do from losing. They learn a lot more from failing than they do from winning. And for Carolina to opt out of this NIT tournament, I don't give a shit. Go to the NIT, lose the first game, win the whole thing. I don't give a shit. But go show those kids that this is what failure feels like. You don't get to play in the big dance. You don't get to play on CBS. You're on this Tuesday night game that no one gives a shit about, playing in the NIT. Taste that, okay? And I don't say that in a spiteful way, but I say that in a way of, how are you going to appreciate the highest of the highs when you're not even going to entertain the lowest of the lows? Am I crazy for thinking that?
Nah,
Okay.
definitely not crazy. I would agree with you. You definitely give them a false sense of whatever it is you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, I will say this. What if, in fact, it's on the kids? You know? What if, in fact, the kids as a whole, in totality, didn't want to play? You know, how could they get their team to prepare for NIT when the kids felt that failure and then just opted out?
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. What do you do then?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but to me, that's a symptom of the larger issue. And I would call on Hubert Davis to be the one and say, like, I would want my coach to say, fuck that. This is not a democracy. This is a dictatorship. And I'm telling you guys
that we're playing. Yeah.
That we're playing. You guys failed, and you're going to go taste what that failure feels like. Because guess what? Next year, when we're making a run to the Final Four, you're going to appreciate it that much more. That's what I would have done if I were Hubert Davis. But I agree. What do I know?
Nah, we just a friend of a friend. Don't listen to us. We picked Furman and FDU.
And for what it's worth, I know Carolina will be back. I have the utmost confidence in Hubert Davis.
He ain't going there, so we definitely going for UNC.
Yeah, but you guys know how I feel about my Carolina Tar Heels, and so I had to get that off my chest. All right, last thing before we get out of here, let's just give a quick shout out. We touched on it earlier. How about FDU? Oh, my gosh. How about FDU? I mean, complete domination start to finish. I mean, that game never felt close.
He told y'all what the focus was, and they went out there and they did it.
Yeah.
Focus on the glass. They're a physical team. They can't shoot that well, but they attack a lot. And he averaged four rebounds a game. He ended with 8. That means he definitely focused on the glass. We challenged him to get 10, but super close. We taking that. We taking that all day. He averaged 14 a game. He had 23. I mean, he stepped up. He answered the call. And I know it wasn't just him, but we're just speaking about Ansley because he's a friend of a friend, you know, and he was on the show and telling us, giving us insight on what their focus was and how he didn't want the stage to be too big for him. He said it hasn't hit him yet. He just want to go out there and play and win. And that's what they did. Another New Jersey team stomping through the tournament.
I love it. Go be a friend of a friend. We'll see you guys next time.